Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Valine, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
I'm good, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We also got Zach Ross. How you doing, Zach?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm great.
That's good. Had to think about it for a second, but glad
Yeah.
You
glad
had
you're
to think
doing
about
well.
all that days gone he's been
Oh
playing.
yes,
That's that
I
is what I was thinking about. Like, am I great? Am I really great? I don't even know.
I'm very much looking forward to the Days Gone update later on in the show. But we also have another
Oh,
update
yeah.
to talk about. That is Monster Hunter, and the big
Woo!
question: is it finished yet?
No.
Logan and Zach, you can take it from here. Is the game finished? Does it have an ending?
No.
No, not yet.
Nope.
Yeah, the official ending, I suppose, or the updated ending will be released in Monster Hunter 3.0, which comes out officially at the end of May. We
Okay.
got Monster Hunter 2.0 right now at the end of April, which just introduces a lot of new gaming mechanics and a handful of new monsters, but no official ending yet.
So
Although, not to say that this update isn't chock full of new stuff, it is, and it's all pretty much great stuff. Logan and I have had the chance to play it, and you know, I've loved all the new additions. They introduced the layered armor, which is one of my favorite things, so I don't have to look stupid. I can have good armor stats and as well as look good.
so just like a
And they
transmog
also,
system then. So
Yeah,
okay.
you
yeah,
can
pretty
make you can
much.
just make any armor you want, just that it's cosmetic.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's
Mhm.
separate from the armor you make. That's actually what you're wearing underneath. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
cool. That's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, they added a ton.
So
I
that's
think
good.
that I think the game I think this really addressed most of the issues I had with it. I think that there were a lot of features we were used to in World that were just not here at launch, and
Hmm.
they added a lot of new skills, a lot of new monsters. They unlocked the hunter rank cap so you can keep leveling up now. So yeah, it definitely feels like it has more of an end game now than it did before. Also, I think we talked about the rampage a little bit when we talked about our impressions of this
You
game. It's
did,
the
yeah, I
mode
remember that. Yeah.
where you fend off like dozens of monsters, and it's pretty lame. We don't really like it. There are some exclusive monsters in that mode that you can now fight in normal hunts, so that's a really good add too. That you there's some cool monsters that were locked behind that mode that now you can just go take on in the field, like a normal monster hunt. So yeah, I think it added basically everything I felt like it was missing except an ending, but we know that's coming.
Yeah.
We haven't fought the Chameleos, who is the main new monster of the update yet, but the other monsters they added are ones that we did all fight in World. But yeah, great update. Excited for the next one. I think there's a lot we still have to dive into. So yeah, I've been happy with it so far.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right. I guess we'll wait until the end of this month for the new story content to finish up the story. But it sounds like the update's pretty good, so that's good. Why don't we hop into the news? Other news going around this week. What do we got, Logan?
Yeah, we've got some exciting stuff. Sega has opened a Judgment Countdown teaser website. The countdown ends on May 7th, which is next week. And looks like we could see a Judgment sequel or something else. We already have the next gen version of Judgment. So it wouldn't be anything to do with that. And then Kevin, you were telling us something about clips floating around that didn't seem like they were from the original game. If you want to talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so this comes from a couple of Yakuza fan Twitter accounts that found this out. I commend them for putting in all the work. Basically, they're running a little promotion for an Amazon gift card giveaway for the price of the game. And, it's the whole like, oh, retweet this tweet, and then they would respond back to you if you won or if you didn't. And they would provide like a little video. And most of them were from the game, from Judgment, from the remaster that just came out. But these fan Twitter accounts figured out that there was like 4 or 5 clips that didn't seem to be from Judgment, the original game. So that leads them to believe that this is from a new project. And come, May 7th, when this countdown ends on Judgment Day, they're gonna announce a new game with the footage from these Twitter things that wasn't from the original game. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. I think that Judgment definitely left off in a place where they could go and absolutely make more games moving forward. I think we've talked about a lot before how if the mainline series is going to do this turn-based stuff, this is a great place to keep the classic brawler gameplay the series was built on alive. So yeah, I'm all for it. I love the characters in Judgment. I really enjoyed that game, and as you guys know, it's a lot easier to get into that than it is to get into the ever-growing Yakuza mainline.
Yeah, that is true. Zach,
Oh,
any
yeah.
thoughts on that, Yakuza fan?
Yeah, like you said, I'm a massive fan of the series, and I think Judgment was an amazing spinoff, and I'm glad that it's keeping the traditional fighting and brawling style alive. So yeah, a sequel is more than welcome, and definitely excited to hear more about it. And I wouldn't be surprised because they pump these games out pretty fast.
They do. They could turn these things
Yeah.
around pretty quick.
When
getting
did
these-
Judgment come out in Japan, Kevin? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, but I will look it up if we want to move on to something else.
2018,
Yeah, 'cause
2019?
it came
Probably
out
just
in
the
what
2018.
summer of 2019 in the United States. So
Probably
I think it was like December
2018. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah. So
coming up on three years this winter.
yeah.
So
So I'd be curious to see if I think about like what Pokemon did a few years ago, where they started to slowly inch to a worldwide release, and now they have these games come out worldwide at the same time. I wonder if, with the growing popularity of Yakuza and Judgment in the West, if they would eventually work towards having simultaneous worldwide releases in multiple languages. Because
they've been trying to move to that direction.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the gaps have been really long, right? Like that's like a 7-month gap, but I feel like they used to be longer.
Well, I mean, if you go back to Yakuza 5, that was 3 years.
Yeah.
How long was Like a Dragon in between?
Yeah, I don't know.
The
when
most
that one
recent
came out.
entry. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think it was that long.
Let's see. I'll pull it up here.
That come out in January in Japan.
It came out January 2020, worldwide November 2020.
Okay,
So
so 10 months. So we're looking at like less than a year for both of these. But I just wonder if they're gonna inch towards that, because that'd be pretty cool. Because I think it's tough for any fan of any series when a game is out in another language months before it's out in your region. So that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Judgment, we'll know more. Not quite on next week's show.
No,
We'll have 2 more
Not quite.
shows until we get to talk about whatever they announce on Judgment Day. But we'll move on now. Sony is going to aggressively invest in first-party studios and third-party exclusives. It looks like they're throwing a lot of money behind the plan. The CFO, Hiroki Totoki, explained the company wants to enhance its exclusive offerings, and they're going to do that by partnering with external studios and investing in in-house studios. So this is pretty interesting, because I feel like we just talked, was that last week, or 2 weeks ago, about how Bend and some other studios weren't necessarily getting to do what they want. So I do wonder if that's a strategy that's going to change. They also announced a new multiplayer game from ex-Destiny and Halo developers. That's a different story that we didn't get to last time. But focusing more on exclusives, I think something we've been talking about is how Xbox is really gearing up with a huge line of studios. So to me, this is something Sony needs to do.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Zach,
and I
any
think
thoughts?
it lends into its too big to fail kind of risk strategy, where they're pumping a lot of money into these studios and they don't really mind, because they are these properties that they believe will be successful. So I think that that's why they're leaning into these specific studios and focusing more on first party and those PS5 exclusives going forward.
Going back to Days Gone and Bend, at the very least, they're working on an entirely new project. They weren't relegated completely to doing Naughty Dog support. They were eventually able to get their own new project greenlit, and they're working on that now. So that's good. It remains to be seen how much of this money is going to be going into a couple of big studios with a couple of these big games, which is what we were talking about before, of the too big to fail. If you're talking about, $200 million into these studios, but a lot of it goes to these big games, it may still be an issue down the road if it gets too saturated with a couple of different styles of games. But at the very least, they know that that's what worked for PS4, and they're going to be trying to hit it again on PS5 with both their first-party titles as well as some form of exclusivity with third parties, whether that be a exclusive third-party game or a year exclusivity like they did with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It worked on PS4, and it looks like they're going to try it again on PS5.
Yeah, and I think it's just, they just can't get complacent, right? I mean, because they've been dominating the exclusive game between them and Xbox over the last generation, and that's not going to be the case anymore. I really don't think so. Especially with the Bethesda acquisition over at Microsoft, like what that's going to do for them. I think they really need to hit it hard, and I think it'd be great to see some genre diversity. The Japan studio stuff is really not great, and how they're really shifting focus away from all those smaller projects they worked on. But I look at a game that's coming out this week in Returnal. Yeah, on the surface, it does look like that third-person action game, story-focused, but that's a roguelite. Like, that is a very different genre than the other stuff that Sony puts out, like Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, Last of Us, whatever. It's a very different gameplay style. I've heard that it's brutal. Like, I've heard it's a very difficult game, Returnal. Reviews don't drop until after recording this, but I've heard good things from the impressions, and to see them pushing that as like a big next-gen exclusive, and then you've got Ratchet coming up, like, they're a little bit different. They're still third-person action games. One is cartoony, one is a roguelite, but just seeing them kind of put all this push into these two big next-gen games that aren't on PS4, these two are PS5 exclusives, I think is a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to wait and see how those reviews turn out for Returnal. And of course, we're going to be getting more information on Ratchet and Clank. They dropped a little trailer, but of course, timing, not always the best with it. We're going to be missing the state of play by a day, but we'll be seeing more on Ratchet and Clank. We'll be able to talk about that more next week, too.
Did you guys see what the new female lead in Ratchet and Clank's name was?
I forgot already.
I forgot it as well.
It's Rivet, which I think is kind of clever. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Ratchet and Rivet.
That game looks cool.
It looks
does.
Nice. Yeah,
it looks pretty amazing.
Looking forward to seeing more.
I think that Returnal looks really, really cool too. I've never been a roguelite guy. I wish I was. I think if I got into the genre, I'd really like it. This is kind of a sidebar. Been thinking about this. I think like people like always ask like, what's your favorite genre of games? And I used to always say it's platformer, but it's not necessarily platformers. I've really learned about myself that I like games where I just have to beat my head against a wall, right? Is games that I like. Monkey Ball, F-Zero's brutal, Celeste is brutal, like these games that just make you try over and over again at the same thing. So it's like, why don't I like roguelikes? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's a genre I could really get into. So I gotta try Hades, or I gotta try something to try and get into that genre, because I think I'd love it. Maybe it's something about it changing slightly every time.
Is it the change? Is it like backtracking that you have to do? Like, this probably isn't the case for everything, but like for level-based games where you're talking about Celeste, or well, I guess Celeste more like screens as a level, or Monkey Ball, where if you die, you're going back. But I guess with Monkey Ball, no, you have to go back and restart that whole challenge thing. So maybe it isn't about replaying it. For me, that's the thing that I hate. I feel like replaying it is a waste of my time. But
yeah, well, Logan, you're not super into backtracking, because I know you don't like Metroidvanias, and I think that's a big aspect of why you don't like them is all the backtracking and running around. Is that one of the reasons?
I think that's a little different. I don't like Metroidvanias because I think I've said on the show before, I get to a room and I don't have the tool yet, and I'm like, well, that's kind of annoying. I'll just have to remember this and come back to it. When it's like, I think with roguelites, it's like, I like Monkey Ball and Celeste because it's the same. If I die, I'm trying to repeat like the same room or the same stage every time. But with a roguelite, you're more trying to conquer the game's systems and then be good at whatever different shakeup they throw at you, because the rooms and the enemies shuffle up. So you're not kind of like programming this system into your head of like, okay, I go here, I do this, I jump off this wall, then I have to use my dash here in Celeste, or in Monkey Ball, like, oh, I need to be really careful around this corner and then choose this path because it's slightly easier. It's like you don't get into that rhythm in roguelites, right? It's like, I just need to be really good at this game to get through whatever new sequence they throw at me, which is a reason I love Super Meat Boy and hate the randomly generated Super Meat Boy sequel. But I think I could get into the genre if I could give it a try. And Returnal looks great, but I'm not buying it at $70. So
keep that going as long as you can. We'll see about that.
Yeah, even though I already broke it with that movie. But I'm gonna get back into not doing that. Let's move on though to Naughty Dog says, Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog says there's a Last of Us 3 storyline written. He and Hallie Gross, who wrote The Last of Us Part 2 together, they said they sat down and did hammer out what would happen in a possible Part 3. They said they're not making it right now, but Druckmann said he hopes at some point this project will see the light of day, and he says it touches a little bit on what happens after Part 2. So obviously no spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. But there is some sort of draft of what happens in this game out there. Last of Us Part 3, almost a year later, is it something that you want, Zach?
It's a hard question to answer because I didn't know if I wanted The Last of Us Part 2 until it was out, and I don't know if I'd want a Last of Us Part 3 because it'd have to be great to live up to the series. Because I'd be fine with having the first one and the second one. Those are fine, but having a third one, it's a risk. And, even if they do decide to work on it, it's still so long. It's going to take so long to make because it's going to be such an ambitious project moving forward. It's going to be dedicated for maybe PS6. Who even knows at this point? But
yeah,
in the future, I'm sure I'll want it because it will have been so long that I will have sat on, the first two in the series, and I will have loved the TV show. So who knows?
We'll see about that.
I'm not going to love the TV show, probably.
Game.
I think I would be fine with another one. I'm always open to the possibility of sequels, even if the series is essentially wrapped up. I just don't think it's definitely necessary. And I would like to see them working on some new stuff. They've been doing a lot of Uncharted and Last of Us in the last decade. So maybe some new IPs would be a fresh start.
Yeah, Kevin?
Yeah, it is kind of tough because I look back to The Last of Us Part 1 and where that story left off, it didn't really feel like it needed a sequel. And then they decided to come out with The Last of Us Part 2. And I think The Last of Us Part 2 is also in a similar situation, at least to me personally, where story-wise, I don't think it needs another game, really. And I'm trying to think of what they would do with that sequel.
Yeah.
The way
these
he
characters
made it sound is that it touches on a little bit of what happens after Last of Us Part 2, which makes me think it'll be set around different characters maybe, and will only reference the events of Last of Us Part 1 or 2. That's just kind of the way he phrased it, made me think of like that, but it's all just speculation at this point.
Yeah, I guess where I'm at right now, I don't need it. And I think that's also because Last of Us Part 2 came out relatively recently. We have the TV show in the works. We've got that whole news story about a Last of Us remake coming out for PS5. I think I've just gotten a little bit fatigued over everything with just so much Last of Us coming out that at this point, and where the story left off on Part 2, I really feel like I don't need it. Check back in a couple of years and maybe I'll have turned on that. But as of right now, I feel like where it is at right now, I'm more than content with.
Yeah, I agree. I am very satisfied with it, but I feel like the second that we saw like a teaser trailer for it and saw a little bit of what it's about, we'd be like, sweet, we're excited to play this. But yeah, as of right now, I think that 2's ending is pretty great way to lead the series. I don't need to see it continue. I think that they understand that they wouldn't make it unless they really thought they had a great idea for it. I don't know if so. It seems like Sony overhead is kind of really pushing the AAA studios to make what they know will sell. So I could see them kind of forcing Naughty Dog into a Last of Us Part 3. But from the studio itself, I don't think Naughty Dog would choose to make this game willingly unless they knew it was going to be great, unless they knew they had a fresh direction to take it. And I don't know, after 2 whole games of fighting clickers and throwing bottles and bricks, it's like, how different could it really be? Like, I just worry that it might start to feel a little samey with a third entry. I feel like with Uncharted, the games are so much shorter and so much lighter that they feel like these fun action movie romps that you don't mind that there's 5 of them. But The Last of Us takes an emotional toll to play, and it just has a much darker tone, and it's like, okay, at what point are we gonna get, or at what point are we gonna have enough of angry people killing zombies and killing each other because the world sucks because it's a zombie apocalypse? Like, at what point will it be enough? Like The Walking
I
Dead
will never have
went
enough
on
of
way
that.
too long. Yeah, it's like Days Gone, right? So I don't think we need it, and I want to see Naughty Dogs do something entirely new. Like, even though the Uncharted and The Last of Us are so different in tone, at the end of the day, it's still like third-person shooters with an emphasis on the cinematic storytelling. It's like, let's see them do something else. Let's see like a sci-fi game or a game that takes place hundreds of years ago. Like, let's see just something completely. It's not like takes place in the 2000s, zombie apocalypse or not. Like, just go somewhere totally different with the studio. I think that's what I personally want next from Naughty Dog.
And, they've shown that they can make a pretty big pivot from, Crash Bandicoot and Jack to going to Uncharted and The Last of Us. So,
yeah,
they've shown that they can do it before and do a pivot to something entirely new.
Mm-hmm. I do want to know what's in that story draft, though. I want to know what they think would happen. If this game never happens, if Last of Us is done, I think it'd be fun if in like 20 years they're like, yeah, here's what we wrote. We never made it, but here's what we wrote. Because I'm curious. I'm curious to see what's in there, for sure. Yeah. Let's move on though to a pretty interesting story here. Super Mario Party, which launched in October of 2018, just got an update for online play. What? So that was one of the biggest criticisms of this game. There was no online at launch. There was a pretty gimped online mode for playing mini games together, but you could only play like 20 mini games, and it wasn't very fleshed out. But now they added Mario Party, which is the main mode, and Partner Party, which is a 2v2 mode, and they also added a free play mini game online mode. Just dropped out of nowhere. Nothing else new in the game. They're just like, hey, here's online play for Super Mario Party, and that's crazy to me. 2.5 years, and not even just 2.5 years of like no online play, 2.5 years of nothing, absolutely nothing added to this game. No new characters, no new maps, which this game desperately needs more maps. And it's just shocking. Online play Super Mario Party.
Yeah, from what I've been seeing on Twitter, it's still very hit or miss with Nintendo Online as to how the connection is. And it's also interesting that it took this long, especially with the pandemic happening. You'd think that with an update like this, I would kind of assume that's why they threw it out there after this long. Yeah. But then it's also like it's been this long since the pandemic started, and now it's out. It took that long for that. Yeah. Like, everything about it's just weird. I mean, it's like, it's cool that it's there and that it's free of charge, but it raises a lot of questions too.
Yeah, like what team was like, all right, we'll run in and throw this into Super Mario Party real quick. Like, are they working on Super Mario Party 2? And online is going to be in that one on day one? Like, we'll throw it out there for the original forum. It's like, I just want to know the behind closed doors conversation that led to this update happening, because it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, just for a game that gets literally no post-launch support beyond a couple of bug fixes at the very beginning, and then 2 years later they're like, boom, here's an update for online. Just weird, but hey, it's there now. That's cool.
Yeah, it's not like Stardew Valley that was single player for a long time, and then like just one of the updates added multiplayer. Like, that's a logical progression. This is just out of nowhere. Hey, this game that we dropped 2.5 years ago is getting online play. I mean, it's good. Yeah, it's really good. We're seeing Nintendo add online play to a lot of stuff. Mario Maker 2 had it. The original didn't. Mario 3D World on Switch had it. The original didn't. And now they dip back into this almost 3 freaking years later, and we're like, here you go. So I like seeing it. Like, I don't want how baffled I am to come across as negative, because it's great. It's just like, I did not expect to see Super Mario Party in the news just on a random Tuesday.
Yeah. And then it also, like, when I saw the news, I was like, oh yeah, that didn't have online really when it came out. And I was like, that's weird. It's weird that it wasn't there at the beginning, but it's there now.
Yeah. So I think that Super Mario Party needs a sequel. I think Super Mario Party 2 would be really good.
Yeah, I think it was a good base for like a refresher to the franchise because it was fun, but it was pretty bare bones and it didn't have online support. So it was all local. So
Yeah.
a sequel would definitely do well if it was expanded upon
The boards.
quite a bit.
The boards.
Boards,
Like,
just more boards.
like,
I was bored. Is the problem.
For
Good
real
one.
though, like that was the core of the
Hey,
game is
thanks.
good. The mini games are good. The rafting thing is a fun thing to do every once in a while, but it's
Yeah.
just the boards get so dull so quick because their gimmick is just like a one sentence thing, like, oh, the thwomps move, or like, oh, the bomb blows up. Like, give me some more of like the Monopoly style, like, oh, you got to be like managing these like properties and stuff, and like all this
Yeah.
crazy board stuff. That's what they need for a sequel.
Absolutely, and that was something that the GameCube era of Mario Party really nailed. The Wii one had some every board had a different gimmick too, but I don't like Mario Party 8 as much. But like you talk about Windmillville in Mario Party 7, I think it is. And you have like Pagoda Peak, the race to the top of a mountain. There's just so many really cool different spins on boards, and the boards are so much bigger too.
I think
like Super Mario Party, they're really small, which I was fine with that change, but it's like I need more of them. If they're going to be this small and there's this few, something's got to change.
And it also takes something from the boards. Or going off on this for a little while, where you could, if you collected some of like the little like support characters along the way, you could do one roll and get through like the whole board.
Yeah.
Like you could do a whole lap on the board in one turn. And that kind of puts it into perspective of just how small these boards are and how they really do need an expansion of some kind in the sequel. Because if they do decide to put in a lot more of these like cool gimmicks, the boards are gonna need to be bigger. I don't think those things could last with some of these types of ideas. They're gonna need to make them bigger, along with the different concepts for the board gimmicks.
And I think what I miss that will never come back in Mario Party is how brutal ones used to be. Like, it did not care about you. It did not care if you were a 3-year-old kid playing the game. It would take your stars from you. It would take your coins from you. Like, other players could just ruin you, and that was just part of the game. But it's a lot softer now, and I think that has taken away a little bit from it. Because now it's like, I can't have as much of an impact on other players. I can't have this epic turn where the game totally swings in my favor as much. There's only 2 bonus stars instead of 3. Yeah, it's just not as brutal and cutthroat as they were on the 64 and GameCube, which I think is what was kind of at the core of that series, was just how devastating it could be at times.
I don't think people want cutthroat Mario Party. I think people
want
do. Soft Mario Party. I prefer
soft
Mario Party because there's no worse feeling than getting destroyed by another player. I think just a nice, fair, balanced, soft Mario Party.
Your friend group. I feel like there's some
friends
friend
with
groups
Logan
that I play with where I'm like, I need to have this version of Mario Party and not the old one. But you get the right people together, and it's something special with the older ones.
Yeah, I've never played not competitive Mario Party. It's always been very scarring, so.
Poor Zach. Poor Zach. But yeah, Mario Party online. I haven't checked it out yet, but I might. Zach, you have it, right?
I do. I haven't cracked it out in years because I forgot it existed.
As Nintendo did until last week.
You don't own it, right, Kevin? You've just played with other people?
Yeah, I've just played with people who own it. At this point,
okay,
I'm just waiting for a sequel. I really hope that they will bring out a Super Mario Party 2 because I think it will improve on a lot of Super Mario Party's flaws. That's kind of where I'm at now.
Also, that I don't love the focus on the Joy-Con like there are with it, but just let me play with the Pro Controller. Just make the mini games not as Joy-Con focused, I think, in a sequel. And I think that would be just fine.
Yeah. Could do without a lot of those, or just having more mini games to offset some of the other ones.
Yeah. All right, but Kev, I think Zach, I think that's it for the news this week.
All right. I guess that'll wrap it up for the pretty big news week we've had. So moving on, we'll go into what we've been playing this week. I'll go last because I want to talk a lot about Days Gone. So we'll start with Kevin, who recently beat a game.
I did. 13 Sentinels. Aegis Rim is done. Got the platinum, although the platinum is very easy to get in that game. Because you just have to do the story, and then the combat, you can switch to casual. They've got casual, normal, and like like hardcore difficulty mode. You can just swap over to casual to get the last like S ranks. So I just did that because I'm like, I'll get the platinum. It is a really good game. Again, it's kind of hard to talk about a lot of it because so much of the game is focused on the story. The combat is good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the depth that they tried to introduce with the 4 different types of sentinels. You have got like all around long range, the ones that have a lot more mobility, and then they each have their own different weapons that you can upgrade and go through, and you can upgrade like the main base abilities for certain abilities that you can use in combat. So I think that they did a good job of fleshing it out, but that's by no means the reason that you go and play this game. It's kind of like a supplement to the story that's already there. But I think the combat did a nice job of if you got a little bit bored with the story in terms of gameplay not really being there, if you're not like super into visual novel type games, the combat is a good kind of refresher before going back in. But yeah, there was just a lot of things in the story that I didn't see coming. And like I talked about before, because of its structure of being able to play a lot of these different characters out of order, there's not one order that you play them through. You pick and choose who to play as. It lends itself well to slowly revealing things to you. And you could reveal something earlier to make things make more sense. And the way that you put the puzzle pieces together can be a little bit different as to somebody else and how they played through it in just the order that it all came together. And I think it also means that you don't have that one moment where it's like, oh, this is what happened. I really appreciated that there were different moments where you're like, okay, so it wasn't this, it's this. And then you add something new to it later that kind of changes things up a little bit more as you figure things out. So I really appreciated the structure that I really haven't seen too much in other games. I felt like it was pretty unique in that way. I would definitely highly recommend it, especially if you're into visual novel type games. This is a must play, I think. But even for people who aren't so into it, I think that you should still definitely give this game a look. I think the story is more than worth it, and the combat is a nice change of pace from the rest of the story content that's there. Yeah, it was good.
Cool.
Highly recommend it. And then I picked up the Mafia trilogy during the spring sale on PlayStation. And so once I finished 13 Sentinels, I hopped into the remake of the original Mafia that came out nearly 2 decades ago, early 2000s. Really like it. Another game that is heavily focused on its story. After playing so many open world games where it's like it litters your map with crap to do and it gets very overwhelming, I kind of appreciate how Mafia has this open world that doesn't force me to like go and do all of these things. It's kind of weird in the gaming landscape now. It feels kind of out of place, but I kind of appreciate it where it is just like, here's the story mission. You're going to the story mission. You're doing the story. And then it gives you an option to just have like a free cruise mode to just kind of like drive around the town if that's what you want to do. But the game knows that its strongest aspect is its story, and it runs with it. The voice acting is very good. It's like you're watching a Mafia style movie, but in game form. Love all the different characters. The game looks really nice. I love the setting that it's in 1930s America, and just like the little attention to detail that they have. And like the cars all look really nice. The radio stations, there's only 2 of them, but they're really nice timepieces. There was one moment where I was driving and they were doing like a baseball broadcast. Like there was like a little like pregame show. And then I hopped into the car later in that mission and they were broadcasting like the bottom of the 9th inning of this game.
That's cool.
And I was like, just the little things that I really appreciated to really kind of immerse yourself in the world. The only problem is that it's kind of buggy sometimes. I've run into some stuttering. I'm playing it on a PS4 Slim, so it probably runs better on next gen or PS4 Pro. But I've had some stuttering and frame rate drops from time to time. I've noticed that if you click back to like if you're in a car and you want to like look behind you, you can click it a couple of times and the game freaks out. Like it drops to just like a frame to turn it around and a frame to turn it back. Like it's super jittery. So that's weird. And then there was a moment where, so I was like in this hotel and I had like rescued my buddy. And this guy is supposed to bust out of the door and like push me over like this pool table and run out of the building. But there was nobody there the entire time. So I got pushed over. I'm like, what happened? Like, did I like trip? or something, and then it showed the shot of the door like as he was supposed to be running out, and no one was there that entire time. So I was just like, okay, that was kind of weird. So, you know, it's got some issues, and I had heard that Mafia 3, which the same studio did Mafia 3 in the definitive edition, that had some glitches and weird things. So that's there. That kind of sucks, but overall, I've been having a really good time with it.
Nice. Hey, you've had your eye on that one for a while, I feel like.
Yeah, I was thinking about it for a long time when they announced the trilogy. So it's nice to finally getting around to playing it. I'm having a good time.
All right, Logan. The
Monster Hunter. MLB The Show. I started my road to the show where you like design a player. Just made a really hideous baseball player.
You got to do it,
as you do.
Yep. If it gives you a character creator, you got to try to make the most disgusting character every time.
Yeah, he's a monstrosity. And what I like is you kind of get to tell the game what team you want to be on. In prior games I played, it just drafts you to a random one, but I got drafted to the Mariner organization, which is what I wanted. And you also really get to pick what position you want, which isn't always the case before either. Sometimes they'll shift you around. But yeah, otherwise it's pretty similar to what I've done before in the Road to the Show I played a few years ago, but it's a good time. Nothing really new to add there. Made some more disgusting stadiums, just
nice.
Just doing what I do in that game, having a good time.
Speaking of that, on last week's show, I mentioned that I was curious if there was more like business management aspect to it, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't a fever dream. That was in the game. It was in MLB 11 and MLB 12, where you could like adjust ticket prices and concessions and like upgrade your facilities.
I was actually looking into that. There's a much lighter version of that now, where you sign sponsorships to your TV deal. And so like you it's very light. You just have a few sponsors you can sign, and the better your team is, you can get more sponsors, to which gets more money for your payroll. So it's not as cool as that. And it's like actually real sponsorships. Like I'm put like Louisville Slugger on my screen, so then when I'm playing a game I just see, it's like, man, I'm picking my own advertisements now.
Yeah,
that's the level this has gotten to. Yeah. But it's kind of cool getting to pick that and then unlocking as you go up. But yeah, that's all I've been playing.
All right.
Main event.
So,
here we go. Days Gone.
Yeah, exactly. Main event. Other than Monster Hunter Rise, I've basically just been playing Days Gone. I've been playing a lot of Days Gone. I've played almost, I want to say, between 25 and 30 hours to this point. It's a much longer game than I originally anticipated. I had no idea this was a 40-ish hour game coming into it. I assumed it was somewhere around the 15-hour mark. So I was very surprised. I was like a decent way into it, and I was like, wow, this doesn't seem like it's wrapping up. So I looked at the average beat time. I was like, it's not wrapping up. It's not even close to wrapping up.
It's an open world game, right? They gotta extend those out, right?
There's a reason it was delayed like 100 times.
I get it, because this game is chock full of stuff. Like, it is a very busy game. I feel like there's a lot going on. I feel like it's a little crowded in different stuff to do and stuff to manage. Like, one of the big things about this game is just driving from point A to point B, but you also have to do bike management, like upgrading your bike, refueling your bike, maintaining your bike if it gets damaged with parts you find around the world. So the bike management can get a little, it can be a bit of a pain at times, but once you upgrade your bike to have better fuel capacity and withstand more damage, in the later parts of the game, it doesn't become as big of an issue. I just found it quite annoying in the beginning parts of the game when I kept running out of fuel and you had to walk your bike. Like, it's annoying. And you can only save when you're at your bike or at a bed. So there were multiple times in the early parts of the game where I had to spend an extra 10 minutes I wanted to get off just finding a bed. So it was kind of annoying. It seems like it's a little outdated to have to find somewhere to save. It just reminds me of the earlier Yakuza games having to find a save booth, which was much easier than finding a bed in Days Gone, apparently. So that was annoying. But don't let that fool you. The fact that I've just been playing it nonstop, I'm having a good time with this game. I think it's fun. I definitely am having a good time. Overall, I don't think the story is great. It's definitely not a throwaway story. It's focused on very much. I think it's a good story. I think a lot of this game is good. I don't think there's very much bad in this game, but I don't think very much of this game stands out. And I don't think a lot of it's particularly great. And a lot of it just feels unnecessary. Like there are missions that are so pointless. I like the way the missions are structured because there's blanket goals that Deacon St. John, I know his name now. There are blanket goals that he has, and they're color coded. And there's percentages to completing this goal, and there's like a handful of missions you have to do until the goal is complete. But some of these missions are so stupid and pointless that I don't know why they're in the game. There was this one mission where I had to go from our main camp to a farm that was quite a distance away. I had to drive all the way there to check up on my buddy. I drive all the way there. I get there. I ask how he's doing. He says, "How do you think I'm doing?" And I get a big mission complete screen. And I'm just like, did that mission really need to exist? It was a 2-sentence mission that took 5 minutes to drive there. I think there could be a lot of fat trimmed out. I think
that's just a symptom of an open world game. Yeah. I feel like that only the best ones don't. And even some of the best ones have that.
Yeah. So I think that they could have cut down a lot. There's hundreds of missions to do in this game. And some of them are like that. And that's just how it is. I like there's the weapons. I like one of the big things I don't like is to get better weapons, you have to buy them from camps. And to buy them from camps, you have to upgrade your friendship level at these camps. And there's like 3 different main camps in the first area, and they all have different friendship levels by doing missions for them. And then you get locked out of that area into the second area in the second half of the game, and you can never go back there. So you have to do friendship levels at all these new camps, and you can't buy anything new there. So that's not fun. I hate camp friendship levels. I hate it very much. So that's a little annoying. So I've basically maintained some of my original weapons, which I think are kind of crap now, but I have the best melee weapon in the game. So I just put a lot of my skill points into melee, and I just swing away at a lot of these zombies. And that's been my workaround for these crappy weapons that I hold.
How's that been for the hordes, though? Because you hadn't run into any hordes when we were talking last week.
Okay, so let me get into that. I just hit around the 25 to 30 hour mark, and I'm now at my first required horde.
Oh, you just got there?
That's what I'm currently stuck on. I've tried 5 times. I hate hordes. They're not fun. They require a lot of planning and strategizing and weapons and ammo. And so throughout the whole game, there's hordes around. You never have to fight one. You can always sneak around them. And I like sneaking around things, so I've always done it. Because it just seemed like a huge waste of ammo and time to fight these hordes. Yeah. And I was like, hey, maybe hordes just aren't required. That'd be sweet. But now I've gotten to a required horde. It's massive, and it's really kind of difficult. Like, I'm really going to have to strategize, because if they catch up to you, you just instantly die. And my stamina gauge is garbage because I refuse to go upgrade it, which might just be on me. You have to. Actually, I don't know if I can anymore, because the way to upgrade stuff was in the first area. I only upgraded my stamina like once.
There's no way
I upgraded my health like once.
Right?
No way.
Don't think they could. I doubt it.
No way.
But my stamina is pretty garbage right now. But I've got a bunch of skill points, so I'm not completely bad, and I've got plenty of explosives and stuff, so I think I can do it. I just got to keep bashing my head against the wall to do it, which is fine. And I remember one of you saying that this game came out and was kind of glitchy.
Yeah.
It's not entirely fixed. I've come across a couple weird glitches. I think I brought one of these up to Logan, but I went into a building, and the inside of the building didn't exist. It was just a bunch of floating space, but I had to go upstairs and open a door, but I didn't know where the stair was because none of it existed. It was all invisible. So I had to fumble my way around in this invisible building and try and find the door. And then I eventually got my way to the door, and it activated a cutscene, but the building wasn't in the cutscene either.
That's
so
incredible.
The characters were just floating. It was
That's
kind
incredible.
of stupid. And that wasn't even the weirdest part, because shortly after that, I went back to like one of the main hub areas in the first part of the game. There was just a chunk of ground missing, like from Minecraft, where chunks don't spawn sometimes. And I was like, okay, it's probably a similar situation to what I just went through. So I tried to walk on it, and he just fell through the ground, started his like skydiving animation, which apparently he has. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it before, but he just skydived and went through the world and just died, and I had to restart. Which brings me into another point: unfair respawning. Like, I've driven for 10 minutes, died at my checkpoint, and then got shot back all the way till before I had driven there. So some of those are a little unfair, but I've learned to live with it. And then, gosh, what else do I have to say about this game? I still, with all its flaws and all its management systems, it is still a fun time. The zombies have variation. There's standard zombies. It took a while for them to introduce variations. And there's also infected animals. So it does spice things up, and it does keep things interesting. And I'm never really hurting on ammo. I'm playing on normal, and I usually have a pretty generous amount of stuff. So I don't really have any complaints in that area. It's pretty easy to get stuff. And the bike feels very good. I think I've gotten used to it. And with all the upgrades and the nitrous, it's pretty fun to control. And you can get places a lot faster when you do upgrade the bike, especially the top speed and the nitrous. Like, one upgrade and my bike went 3 times faster, and then one more upgrade and I was shooting over jumps with nitrous. Like, it's something you're going to want to upgrade really fast. But being stuck on that horde kind of sucks, because now I'm like, if I put it down, I'll never be able to pick it back up again, because I'll never be as good as I am right now at Days Gone. So I can't put it down, because I'll never be able to beat it that way. So hopefully I'll be able.
Huh?
I don't know, because as soon as I start the game, I'm like locked in that mission, and I don't know if I can get out of missions while I'm in them.
Figure that out.
So I think I can do it. My first try, I got the horde down like 2/3 and then died, and I don't think I've managed to do that since, but I think I can do it. I think I just got to keep trying. And from what I understand, there's like a couple more required hordes, so this isn't even the only one in the game that I have to do.
Good luck.
But yeah, and then in terms of, I mentioned the story. I think it's good. I think Deacon's an okay character. The motivations are a little weird at times, and I mean, they paint him out to be a great guy. I don't think he's that great of a guy, but I think
like Deacon. Come on.
I think I like him as a character, but overall, I'm liking it. Not great. I intend to finish it. And it's got a lot of issues. And that's where I'm at right now.
Sounds like Days Gone.
It does.
So, yeah,
it kind of sounds like what I've heard.
The Days Gone experience. It's a unique experience. I'll give it that.
Then you just like wonder how much worse it was at launch.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
I've heard that it was better. I mean, I would hope that it's better than what it was then.
Yeah, but if you love it, you have to buy it at launch.
That's true.
Conundrum.
Yep.
There's another, like, I don't know if this is just because, well, I'm running it on PS4 Slim, but the fire looks like it's like whenever there's fire, the texture is very pixelated and looks like it's from a PS2 game. And whenever there's text on a piece of paper, it's also pixelated and unreadable. So there's a lot of graphical issues with this game as well. On a PS4 Slim, I don't know. The PS5 version is probably better. So play it on that.
Which is what you were going to do at one point, but
yeah, it's not worth it. I didn't even know.
Too much for you.
I don't think 40 hours. My first PS5 game. I don't know.
That would have been a little much.
Just not worth it.
Stuff going on. All right. So, do you think you're going to finish this game? You think you're going to finish it?
I'm too far into it to give up. I think once I figure out how to deal with hordes better, because like I said, this is the first horde I've even tried to fight. So I think I just got to figure it out a little bit more. And then hopefully beating this game will be a little bit easier, because I've invested a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into beating this game so far.
All right.
But that's all I've been playing this week. So I think time to move on, Kevin.
Yeah, let's do it. It's been a couple of weeks, at least 3 or 4 weeks since our last O2. We do that from time to time. Running out of time. It's been a lot of news the last couple of weeks. We had our little hiatus, so we're back with the O2 segment, and in honor of the possible Judgment sequel that we could be hearing about as early as about a week from now, as well as all the Last of Us stuff about a possible sequel somewhere way down the line. We thought
Days Gone 2.
Days Gone 2 that will not happen. Oh. Sony shut that down. we thought we'd talk about game sequels and our most wanted game sequels of games that haven't been announced yet. So
Yeah.
if there's a series that you really like and the sequel has technically been announced, it does not count. I'll throw it over to Logan first. What are your picks for your most wanted video game sequels?
Yeah, so I'll run through my 3 picks real quick. First one, it's gonna happen eventually, but it's been too freaking long. Mario Kart. I love Mario Kart 8. I think it's like the best kart racer of all time, but I've been playing it we're nearing its 7-year anniversary of the same Mario Kart. And it got DLC, it got the updated battle mode on Switch, but it's just been too long. As long as it keeps selling, they're not going to put out a new one. So I think it could still be a couple years down the road. But Mario Kart 9 would just be great, just to get some fresh Mario Kart tracks. Then I have Captain Toad Treasure Tracker 2. This is a game that got a random DLC pack on Switch after it was ported over. And I think they can do a lot more with it. Just super clever puzzles. I love that game so much. It has so much content especially for a $40 game. And I think that Toad and Toadette deserve another entry in that series because it's just such a smart, clever little game. And then my last one, I think this one's likely to happen, but it hasn't been confirmed yet, and that's Jedi Fallen Order 2. I think that it leaves off on definitely open for a sequel. There's some unanswered questions at the end of that game. I thought it was my game of the year in 2019. I loved it. I absolutely loved the gameplay and the story. It's one of my favorite Star Wars projects of all time. And I would just love to see them return to that world. And just like Days Gone, you can only save at certain points, but that really adds to the tension of the gameplay because it is kind of that Souls-like experience. So that game is fantastic, and that's something that needs to continue. EA really flubbed their 10 years with Star Wars. They didn't make a great single-player game until it was almost over, so I hope they continued this one and give Respawn another crack at it. And don't rush them this time, because that was the only issue with that game. It just had some slight performance issues because it was just a little bit rushed. So if that one had more time in the oven, I think it would be just a phenomenal sequel.
It sounded like from how well that game did that even EA was kind of like, oh, we got to look at doing this again in the future.
Yeah, so. Single player games sell apparently. Who knew?
Shocker.
They do. Crazy.
Yeah.
I have to teach it to EA somehow. All right, Zach, what do you got for your most wanted game sequels?
All right, so the first one I put on my list is Sly Cooper 5. This Sly Cooper is a staple PlayStation franchise, been around since the days of PS2. I know it's got quite the following, still hoping for a Sly 5. I know Sly 4 was picked up many years ago by a new studio, Sanzaru Games. It was mixed reception from fans. It had some weird story beats. I thought it looked really good. It had a more cartoony style, which I liked. And I thought the level design was really good. And the whole concept of time travel for the fourth game, I thought lent well. So I'd love it. Sucker Punch who originally did the original trilogy, just finished Ghost of Tsushima not too long ago. So, hey, if they want to pick the franchise back up, I wouldn't be too upset. But if a different studio wants to take the reins, I think that could work too. So hopefully at some point, there's been a lot of Sly rumors over the years. None of them have ever come to fruition. So hopefully we get something at some point, because I'd be sad if this franchise ended on a cliffhanger and then just never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially since I've been a fan for so many years. And then another game I put was Dishonored 3. This one's still very much a possibility. The second Dishonored came out 4 years ago, I believe, in 2017. The first two were amazing. They're two of my favorite games of all time. There was I think we called them expand-alones not too long after that, like 2/3 of a game called Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which was also very good. Arcane Studios recently working on Deathloop, so hopefully they'll have a little time after that's released, after the delay that pushed it to September. Hopefully it gets released in September. I'd be sad if there was another delay. The only thing up in the air is whether or not it'll be an Xbox exclusive at this point, so who knows. Arcane's a Bethesda subsidiary, so it could go either way. I hope it's not, because I'd probably buy an Xbox for it. Then the last game I put on my list, this one's a big ask. It's Witcher 4.
It's gonna happen. They're gonna go back.
It's probably going to happen given the popularity of Witcher 3 and the show and the whole franchise, the books. It's a massive franchise, and CD Projekt Red has been kind of disappointing lately. Because of all the Cyberpunk 2077 stuff with release way earlier than it should have been. I really hope they don't make the same mistakes with Witcher 4. I know they said they've.
Well, I don't know, because they still made a buttload of money from it. Who knows?
They don't think it matters anymore.
Yeah.
I think Witcher 4 is guaranteed to sell well. I think it's going to be a massive project. I think it'll be a great game if it ever comes out. I think there's room to do more in the terms of carrying on their current storyline, but I think something set in the Witcher universe, not necessarily tied to the first 3 games, would be awesome as well, because it's basically built around this very lore-rich world that has a lot to offer, an amazing magic system, and a lot of great development. So there's really a lot that they could take in direction for this series. So I'd just be happy with anything at this point.
Yeah, I think what happened with Cyberpunk just means that Witcher is going to be pushed further out, because it's just going to take them more time to fix that thing. And I know they want to add in more, post-launch DLC and all that other stuff. So,
yeah,
which is fine, because I don't want to play a broken game, which I think a lot of people can agree on,
especially after Cyberpunk.
But those are the 3 that I think I'm looking forward to the most. Hopefully, I don't know. I think I'd rank them in terms of possibility as Witcher 4, Dishonored 3, Sly 5.
Yeah, probably, yeah. As for me, I've got 3 games. None of them I think are incredibly likely to happen. My first one, there's basically no chance it's going to happen. Little King Story 2, a little game back on the Wii. It did get a PS Vita port.
Let's go.
Only in Japan. So it technically
Still
got
alive.
some form of extra game after the first one. But it's basically just that first game. But I really love the whole like building up your kingdom. The Pikmin style combat with your troops was really interesting to me, and just the worlds and the boss fights. It was just a very whimsical game that is basically in its own realm. I haven't played a game very similar to it in terms of its like humor and its world design and everything. But the developer went bankrupt soon after the game came out, so the odds of that game getting a sequel,
devastating,
very slim. I don't think it's gonna happen. But hey, I thought Rune Factory was dead when that developer went defunct, and they are coming out with Rune Factory 5. So
yeah,
can always hold out hope. Another one, Ni no Kuni 3. They made Ni no Kuni 2 a couple of years ago. It wasn't as well received as the original game. I think the original game is a better overall experience than the second one. But I still had fun with both titles. I love the worlds, the art design, of course, having any sort of Ghibli influence, even if they didn't have a direct hand in the second game as they did with the first game. I still think that the worlds are super whimsical. I like the kingdom building aspect of that game too. That was fun. See where they go with the combat. Combat's kind of changed a little bit from game to game, but I'd be down to see what they could do with a third game. Not sure if they would go back to that depending on the sales of part 2, but who knows. And then I ask for it all the time. It's probably not going to happen. Viva Pinata 3. Rare's off doing their other things. They're probably... I don't think they're ever going to go back to this, but if they do, I will lose my mind. I want that game so bad. It's wild to me that the original Viva Pinata, I believe, is turning 15 this year. I think it came out in 2006 on the 360. So we're due for one.
Yeah.
The last game's over a decade old. I would love it. Don't think it's going to happen, but hey, Microsoft can resurrect Perfect Dark. I feel like they could resurrect Viva Pinata sometime.
That's true.
Who knows? All right. I think that does it for the sequels and this show. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I also want F-Zero and Monkey Ball to come back in classic form.
Yeah, in classic form, not Monkey Ball, banana, whatever.
Yeah. Banana Mania? Was that what it was?
I'm also playing Valheim. I totally forgot to put that on my list.
Oh, how is it?
It's fun. Yeah. I've only played like 3 hours of it so far, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Feels a lot like Minecraft, but there's some cool differences in there. But yeah, I'll probably have more to say on that next week. Yeah, playing that with a friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that was like huge. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's still really big, but I remember it was like taken over like a month or two ago
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah, so I'll have more to say on that next week. I think we're going to play some more here in the next few days.
All right. Zach, anything from you before we wrap up?
My mouth is still kind of dry from talking about Days Gone for so long.
And it doesn't end because there's more game.
We're talking about Days Gone for probably the next few weeks.
Nice.
Looking forward to hearing about your war with the Horde. Hopefully you'll have it conquered by next week's show.
I hope so.
But that is going to do it for us in this week's episode of Ode to Games. Look forward to next week. We'll have State of Play reactions. Of course, we time it perfectly as this episode goes up, that goes out. So next week, we'll have the reactions to the State of Play featuring Ratchet and Clank. So look forward to that. But you can catch us every Thursday now. Times have changed. If you didn't catch it last week, we are on Thursdays now instead of Fridays. So we're here every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. Our website, odetogames.com, has every episode of the audio podcast. The video version is on YouTube at Ode to Games, so if you want to check out the video version of the podcast, it's up there for you there. You can find us on Twitter at Ode to Games, Twitch, Ode to Games as well. You can send an email to odetogamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.